We can go and talk and do great campaigns outside for branding and messaging. What are we doing internally? Because our internal people are our first credible carriers of our message outside.
In internal comms, you are dealing with the most cynical audience.
Internal communications and the way we communicate, there'll always be bad actors even within a company.
Embed failure into your reporting. Very, very easy way to show vulnerability.
Some organizations in India need to realize that internal comms can actually be a strategic lever to their growth.
People have stopped experimenting. People have stopped asking why.
A brand is what you promise to be. A message is what you truly are.
Communication is the bedrock of everything to do. And it's not only professional, it's family, it's people, it's personal, it's friendship, it's everywhere communication is there.
The mic is always on.
So today on our show, we have two guests. One of them you know, and one of them I'm going to introduce. Shoaib, welcome to the show. And someone who's very special to us. In fact, Ambuj, thanks for really making time for us this morning. You're a super senior from Symbiosis, firstly. Ambuj has worked in Barclays, he's worked in Burston Marsteller, and right now he runs an organization called Thoughtcom, which is focused on strategic internal communications and brand reputation. In fact, one of the reasons that we felt he would be such a great guest to share his expertise is because of not only Thoughtcom, but just this year, he released a report called Next IC Shift. It was, I think, one of the first reports I have seen, specifically on internal communications with respondents from India. And maybe we want to start with that, Ambuj. So firstly, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And the first question I have for you is, thanks for the first report that I felt was really focused on the Indian market for internal communications. What are the top 3 things that you found out?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome.
Amongst as you said, the gathering or amongst people who actually talk the same language,
Yeah.
or share the vision of improving the state of communications in the industry, because it's in the benefit and advantage of all. If leaders, companies learn to communicate better, understand the gravity of this subject, I think everybody benefits.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly the purpose of this initiative called Next IC Shift is.
Yeah.
It's India's and maybe the world's first listening tour of its kind, where two kind of experienced professionals, which amongst 50 years of experience amongst ourselves, both of us, going around and actually figuring out what is the state of IC.
Yeah.
And we decided to do it from India. Why? Because India is the future. Amongst the two of us, we are completely very, very sure that India is the future.
Fantastic.
And that is also actually...
Glad to be here.
Yes, exactly. And that's a matter of great pride and also great responsibility on us. Because if India is the future, then you, I, and Shoaib, we are the people who are the founding members of this particular domain.
Yeah,
so that's a huge responsibility on us. So now that's also a kind of, I was just kind of say, that's also a kind of key takeaway from Next IC Shift, that India is not a laggard. Over these years, because the kind of business setup we are in, we have been thinking that whatever comes from the West, or rather the communication practices came more from the West. We started thinking that what is happening there is far more advanced.
Got it.
In my conversation with Mike, actually it was the opposite. He said people have stopped experimenting. People have stopped asking why. And this is exactly what he sees here. So one of the key takeaways from the report is that India is actually...
So India can lead the way when it comes to internal reputation.
Yes, okay. India is actually doing things that might become or will become the future practices across.
Fantastic.
Few key takeaways are, IC professionals need to talk business language. Communication professionals don't, especially IC or culture comms, they don't talk business language, they talk messaging language. While we understand this, we understand there's a very clear connection between business language and the communication language, because communication is
is at the core of the business.
It's the core.
Yeah.
Come on, we three are trying to influence something in the industry. We are having a conversation. It's a communication, no?
Yeah.
If two people sitting next to each other in a cubicle, if they want to get something done, they have to communicate.
Yeah.
Similarly, so basically communication is the bedrock of everything to do. And it's not only professional, it's family, it's people, it's personal, it's friendship, it's everywhere communication is there. Because it's so much in your face here, you don't see it.
Hmm.
And that is exactly the reason that it's easier to miss it, because then it becomes very subtle. How much can you focus on this kind of thing all the time?
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Like
what we
a
end
proximity blind spot.
And we'll probably get to the fact that maybe some organizations in India also are starting to realize or need to realize that internal comms can actually be a strategic lever to their growth, and maybe that's something we will talk about that as we go along.
Yes.
But I think thanks for bringing up the report, and I think that lays a great context for the conversation that we want to have today, saying that hey, what are things that we are doing internally and how are they impacting external reputation? Because today we are not living in a bubble.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And so when it comes to incidences of internal something happening and it's going to impact external reputation, what are some examples that maybe you guys have come across or we've come across in our work? I know, Shoaib, before the episode you were talking about some call you made, and that was interesting. Maybe you want to start with that.
Yeah, I mean, that one is actually a great hybrid example. Not really a example that emanates from internal comms, but which had great ramifications for how employees responded to it, right? Because what we are going to discuss today is how much more of an ambassadorial role employees are playing for their organizations.
Absolutely.
And my mind goes back to the day when some organization, we decided not to name names in this podcast, announced that it's probably better for the India story if we work 70 hours a week, okay? And my first response to that was, I know somebody who works with that organization and she's been with the organization for more than a decade. My first instinct was send her a message saying, hey, are you on track to meet your hours this week? And the response that I got was immediate, one of frustration, full of emojis, saying, you're the 31st person to ask me this already, right? And now an innocuous, maybe ill-timed or poorly planned statement has caused a little bit of confusion on how you're supposed to respond. And definitely, it probably cleaved the employee base into two halves. One who kind of agreed with it and are probably clocking those hours, and one that really did not see that as a necessity. And then you have two different opinions, creating a clash of opinions internally. So I can imagine on the floor, the next few days would have been quite interesting. You know, where employees
but also
try to
the speed of you and the other 30 people actually is something that, like, is the world that we live in today. It's so quick that you thought you messaged her immediately. You're the 31st person. You are not even in the top 10.
None of those employees woke up that morning thinking that they're going to have to defend their work hours that day.
Sure. So that interesting. And Ambuj, obviously you work a lot with internal communication. That's the focus of Thoughtcom. And anything that you see in the industry, maybe not in your work, but what we've seen in the last 5 years, 10 years, that where you see that, okay, these are incidences. And I know before the podcast we were saying there's so many because it happens all the time. But yeah.
See, there are instances that everywhere where things blow out of proportion, and then it becomes difficult for people to believe or kind of align with it. Whether it could be a case whereby the senior leaders are involved in, say, not taking right decisions, and that has been out there in papers. One of the banks was kind of few years back, one of the large banks in India, and the CEO was in the news for that. There are instances where the companies have shut down. It could be miscommunication, misjudgment of leaders or people. So point is that you will find stories which have led to a certain devastation or certain closure of a company.
Sure.
Okay, that is the final outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, but this aspect that when we in communications, one aspect of communication, internal comms for that matter, or for that matter in advertising, it's never 100%. It's not like a measurable process.
Sure.
Completely, where you can say now I am 100%. My culture is built. My 100%. My company, my people are in alignment.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are dealing in an area of gray.
It's a perpetual activity, right?
It's a perpetual activity. So they will all. You get up one morning and you might feel your line manager is not in sync with what the leader CEO promised. Okay, let's take a very simple communication about town halls. So many CEOs do town halls every quarter, every 6 months. And what happens is town hall over, everything over. No, In internal comms, you are dealing with the most cynical audience.
Yeah.
8 hours a day, 10 hours a day.
They're seeing everything. They're seeing everything.
So they are
Yeah.
talking to Andrew, then they're talking to Ambuj. Ambuj is talking to Shoaib. Shoaib is talking to somebody. You know what? Hey, you know what? That leader said something yesterday. So there's a lot more credibility writing, or rather credibility quotient riding or index riding on all the comms that happens internally.
Yeah.
So ensuring. So if a CEO is doing a town hall, he or she announces something, and then after that there is no news on that. Then people get another invite and say, "Oh, what happened to the last town hall?"
Oh, just like last year that was announced. So it happens, becomes a joke.
And that becomes a credibility issue.
Yeah.
That becomes a trust issue.
Yeah. No, in fact, and that's something even at Ideosphere show, we keep dealing with this. We don't have an IC department, we're a smaller firm, but at the end of the day, we are IC.
Yes.
That is the ownership side. It's always in the back of my mind saying, "वो announce किया है, we have to come back and we have to update. Hey, what's happening?" Because the worst thing for me as a leader is when somebody asks, "Hey, you had said something about this, what happened?" Like, "Oh shit, I didn't come back proactively." And because now everything I'm going to say looks like justification.
Sure.
So that is something that in larger companies, internal communications needs to understand the business and needs to understand the audience. And here the audience is so varied. And let's jump to that a second, because you know we are living in a different. It's not different, but in today's work environment, we have 4 generations that are working.
Yes.
We have the new Gen Z, which everybody seems to have a problem with. I don't. Then we have then we have your Gen Y, we have your millennials like us, and then we have people who are maybe some of our parents' age which are still working, and some of them in that age group which are baby boomers who are still there. And we are trying to make sure that all of them are being communicated to and understood, because all of them come from they have different views of work, different views of culture, different views of what this means to me. Now, why is that important? Because our internal teams are interpreting, not taking what we're saying, interpreting, which means analyzing and coming to their own opinions, and then they're going and talking about them. Like Shoaib said, they're also ambassadors, they're carriers of these messages.
Yeah.
And therefore, a lot of times, we can go and talk and do great campaigns outside for branding and messaging. What are we doing internally? Because our internal people are our first credible carriers of our message outside to their family, to their friends. And so it doesn't matter what they see in PR, in media, and what they see in TV. At the end of the day, if an employee of a firm comes and tells you, Shoaib, like your friend, saying, you know, that the culture here is, you are talking about it. People, and we see it all the time because we take sessions at institutes that, you know, students come back and say, one of the things they come back after internship is what you said earlier, that, you know, these organizations say this is the type of culture. Mujhe nahi laga. Okay, that's the most credible, innocent truth that is there. I don't care what that company is doing outside, talking about how great of a work culture they are, what they are, all of that. That intern of 18, 19, 20 years old coming and saying that to 10 other people, or going on social saying it, causes more erosion to external reputation than one can even fathom. Because that is the truth.
You know, because I think the Gen Z have a very finely tuned bullshit meter. They can smell it from a mile away, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing more and more of that creep into the workplace. We had a line in our manifesto, Anirudh, if you'll recall, and I know you have a different opinion on this also, Ambuj. A brand is what you promise to be in the future, right? What you hope to be in the future. A message is what you truly are at this point in time, right? And I think one of the things that companies do, maybe sometimes inadvertently, maybe you saw this in your listening tour also, is that they will classify the internal audience as another audience that we have to pitch a brand to, right? And that's not what the Gen Z employee base wants, at least today. Then don't sell me the brand. I'm already on board, right? I'm here. I've bought into the purpose. Give me the message, right? Because that's the closest.
Give me the truth.
That's the closest to the truth that you'll be able to, right?
Yeah.
When they don't align, then we see examples of them coming back and saying, it's good to talk and it's good in theory, but I didn't see that in practice.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the gray area I was referring to, and we have been discussing about. This is always going to be the gray area. How much can we reduce this gray area is our responsibility
As communicators.
as communicators.
Yeah.
And that exactly is where the job of our job actually starts and actually becomes very, very crucial. To be able to keep a track and to be able to become the right uh, kind of ears and eyes to the leadership. And telling them this is what is happening. And then also suggesting in what ways we can work it out. This also means broadly that actually we are transitioning from a certain kind of workplace to a very different kind of workplace. Now, what it will become, we don't know. It is not only a transition of, say, different generations. It's a transition of different generations. Of course, you have 4 generations. It's a transition of tech.
Yeah.
You have baby boomers who did not grow up with tech, and you have Gen Z or Alpha or
Which are native to it. Yeah.
which are like they grew up with it. Like my niece,
They were born into it.
Yeah, when my niece was born in 2009, and she was 6 months old, and she said she'll put up a finger on the iPad and say loading. So yeah, so it's like and so these are 4 different generations. That is one. Second is that AI. We don't know which side it will kind of sit. In what way it will kind of penetrate the system. In what way will it kind of take away certain things and also introduce some opportunities, which are great opportunities. Third thing is the evolving power structure in the world.
Yeah.
Internal comms especially, like it works and influences. We all, human beings by the very nature, love to go where power flows. We love to evaluate what looks success.
Sure.
One outcome of success is power. Right? You get the responsibilities, you also get authority. So now when the new world order shifts, then do you think the same will remain as what is happening in the West? Because a lot of businesses are kind of known and kind of emerge from there. Which means if a lot of companies become bigger here, then what is the challenge for the companies internally? Like one of the key challenge I see with Indian companies is that they have to let go of their only, we are Indian company. Yes, you are Indian, but at the same time, now you are going to be global. So think global.
Yeah.
So there's another area where I see people. So that's the third part of it.
Sure.
And the fourth part of it is the actually how the people and the society are getting influenced, their retention spans, their attention spans, what they are consuming, how they are living. Like until say when we were growing up, we had enough space in our mind to actually absorb. We were bored. And because we were bored, we would actually observe many things. People are not bored today. Children are not bored today. So how will they learn? And this is going to impact the workforce learning.
How do you get their attention?
Yeah. How do they get their own attention?
Sure.
We getting their attention is secondary. How you, I, him, everybody actually claim our own attention, reclaim our attention, say, no, I'm going to only focus on this.
Yeah.
So these are the 4 or 5 pillars I feel are going to be very challenging in the coming time. That's going to form the gray area. And this is exactly where IC professionals, communication professionals like you and me have a role to play and a big role.
So I think one of the things that you said, Ambuj, and I want to kind of add to that, you said because internal communication needs to be a lever for business, we need to have eyes and ears for the leadership, right? But at the same time, we also play a little bit of a middle role where we also need to be the eyes and ears of our team, because internal communication needs to be trusted. If we are going to be a trusted team platform for us to communicate outside, it cannot be one-sided saying this is the team that communicates for our leadership. No, this is also the team that communicates for us back to leadership. We have to play that role. And I think one of the things today is that aspirations have changed in terms of what does work mean to us?
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking about the other day, I know it's not really connected to this, but it was interesting. We used to always say, like, whenever we are trying to aspire to be big, when I was a child, like, it was aspirational to say to kids, dream to be on the moon. You should want to be on the moon. And that's how big you should dream. Dream big. Like, okay, dream big. And then the other day, Elon Musk gets on for when SpaceX went its IPO, and he said, we're not going to put astronauts on the moon, we're going to put you on the moon. So that which used to be a hypothetical dream big is now a reality. When somebody says, go to the moon, maybe an alpha will say, yeah, I plan on it. I'm going next year.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's completely, the language has changed. Like, what are we talking about, right? And so the aspirations of what is possible today,
you don't see it as delusional.
Completely changed.
Yeah.
Today, AI has made things so different. that today I don't have to think I'm going to get older and develop this product. I'll be like, hey, I have this product idea. I'm going to let Claude create a dirty prototype right now and show you how this app is going to work. What an age to live in. For example, every company today has a WhatsApp group. And then every company has another WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Which is without the founders, the team has a WhatsApp group. And then there's cliques of WhatsApp groups also. I wish I could
And
get
the
a
other one
PK.
is more engaged
than
the official.
I could get a PK, right? Because I have had conversations saying somebody said something to me in a appraisal or something, saying we discussed it. I was like, when did we discuss? No, not in this our WhatsApp group. Hamara ek alag hai. Okay, sorry. So you have your own platforms also. So things are moving at light speed, right? And so whatever we are saying as leaders is we are not at times privy to that. It's happening in a different group, in a different communication environment where people are drawing different assumptions of that.
I will bring in two elements here. One is that, one aspect is that, okay, if there are people talking, if there are so many groups, then they're going to increase only. Okay, everybody likes to talk, everybody likes to, it's so easy that the data is also free. So data is free, so people talk more as well.
Yeah.
So,
The mic is always on.
yeah. So if that is the case, and if a company say has 500 people, 1,000 people, okay, 10,000 people, where the CEO does not even is in touch with the last mile connectivity, means the last person on the
Yeah.
okay. In that case, I think the companies, in that case, it becomes even more imperative for companies to talk more,
Okay.
and talk with authenticity, not to get lost in the 10,000 hydras. Okay, whereby you create your own story, I create my own story, you create your own story, and then we mingle our own story, and then we go to somebody else and the HR department, then we go to ops department, say, this happened, this will happen. Means iska koi end nahi hai.
Sure.
It's like there's a story that comes to your mind. There's a Rakt Beach, where the drop falls.
Sure.
There's a demon appears. Okay, so if you focus on addressing those 10,000 things, you'll get lost. The idea is to ensure, okay, bring in some kind of a common narrative. So there is a narrative that floats around the grapevine in the informal conversation, and there's a narrative that the company wants to build. Not that because company wants to manipulate the narrative. No, manipulation is not even in the dictionary. Because the company wants to put its own message forward and also take everybody along. So which means the company needs to communicate more. When I say more, I don't say mindlessly more. Okay, company needs to communicate more with regards to, okay, possible conversations going around and what can be the possible misinterpretations. Number one. Number two, company should be ready to be vulnerable, or rather show its vulnerable side. Okay, none of us sitting here, even more and more so, are not imperfect. So how can a company be perfect? So this element also needs to be brought together. Not always the talk about the processes and the results and everything. Ultimately, together we are all imperfect. So that imperfection will also show in the collective. So which means together we can make it happen as well. So now, whatever it takes to create those things in together, that's another thing. So this is one aspect where actually, instead of focusing on 10,000 stories, focusing on 3 and drill them so hard with credibility, as we're talking about, create evidence, proofs, and also keep the landscape open to say, okay, you found a challenge here, let me answer it.
Sure.
Invite more and more challenging and more dissent to say, in what ways can we address it?
But Shoaib, do you agree with that? More is good. What do you think to that? I agree with what he's saying.
We've grown up. We've also advised clients in the past saying less is more, right?
No, but
sounds counterintuitive because it's difficult to control the consistency of the message, and which is why companies fall back on the safer route, saying we'll speak lesser because then it's easier for us to stick to the right narrative, right? But on the second point, right, the vulnerability point, I thought that is a very interesting one. I think that's fast turning out to be a hallmark of workplace relationships, especially with Gen Z. Don't be afraid to show that you're vulnerable or that you've made a mistake, because that's how they're wired, right?
They like it. It's honest.
An older generation was very guarded, was a little apprehensive to show weaknesses and to show the fact that we have something to learn here. And I think that is something that goes directly to the measurement point that you said. It's a practice that we follow at Ideosphere also, but I wish to see more of this. Embed failure into your reporting.
Yeah.
Very, very easy
Yeah.
way to show vulnerability. So you made an interesting point about the town hall, right? The CEO will appear, make some commitments, make some promises, set a nice big target, like an audacious goal, right? And then they leave. And then 6 months later, they're at milestone 2, we don't know what's happened. But if the reporting mechanism can also capture why something didn't happen, right? That is the company saying, hey, we are still vulnerable, we're still learning, and that probably creates the term that I like a lot, came up a lot during our research, trust reservoirs, right? We were wondering how can we reframe this term Overton window of internal communications, and I kept coming back to this. Two companies do the same type of announcement or the same type of message. One company, it's taken really well. Another company, it falls flat on its face. Why? Because if you go back and you dig below the surface, you'll see that that company where it worked has invested a lot of time in generating that trust reservoir.
You know what I learn a lot about communications from very different sources. And one source that I really look at when you are talking about not playing to the gallery, not talking and trying to react to every opinion and reputation, but sticking to my message, sticking to my narrative. I feel the GOATs of sports, the greatest of all time in sports, whether it's, I mean, take your pick, right? Messi, Ronaldo, whoever, LeBron, whoever.
Oh,
it
the
is,
World Cup is also going on.
right? The greatest of all time, the sports athletes that are respected, because in sports, everybody has an opinion on what you should be doing.
There are only two goats. They both share the name Michael.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, but how they carry themselves, because especially when you're at the top of your game, you get asked multiple questions from multiple perspectives. And even to your personal life, a lot of stuff. You're in the spotlight, right? And how you handle yourself, how you stick to your narrative of what you're doing, because you will be asked, hey, you lost because you missed this goal, or you missed this basket, or you made a mistake, or something happened personally. Was that affecting you? Is your wife moving away from you affecting your game? Very weird questions to be asked in the public spotlight.
Yeah.
And their ability to bring it and bridge it back to their message. Internal communications and the way we communicate, there'll always be bad actors even within a company. We are assuming this conversation that everybody in the company fits in the company. I think great internal communications and very clear communications which is relevant to who you want in the company, Ambuj, can also create a filter for people who may not fit, to say, maybe you want to find some other place. It's not that we are assuming everybody is a great fit in the company. I think communications can also be a filter to let people, and this is not good or bad, to let people move on if they're not a fit to the way that we are.
Fantastic point, right? Ambuj, you made a point early on in the podcast. I want to swing back to that. What role the IC should play, right? And I think there's a nice lesson to be learned from how HR molded its perception, where, unfortunate as it is, we've all heard at least 100 HR jokes, right? About the role they play,
Or
how
don't
much
play.
or don't play, or they're supposed to play, right?
Yeah.
Or how they align too close to the leadership, right? And there's such a trust gap that somehow has been built, right? Obviously, not in every company, but that's generally the perception. And I think IC needs to be very wary of not falling in the same type of stereotype, where we are saying that we are aligned to the business and to leadership to that extent that we're just repeating and parroting the same this thing, even if it's not making a real world impact. In fact, I would say, look at the story, a story that we all know, right? The emperor has no clothes, right? And if you use the company as an analogy, right, and the leadership are not really in line with what they are saying, right? They don't have clothes. I think it's the role of IC to actually point that out to them first, before they keep bombarding the audience with a lot of messages, where the audience is forced.
That's
to
where
tell,
IC needs to have a business ear.
Yes.
They need to have an understanding what's happening in macro world. Hey,
Right.
what you guys are saying is not making sense.
Because
Yes.
the generational shift, I'm 100% convinced that the Gen Z and Alphas are not going to be averse to pointing and telling the leadership that, hey, you're naked, right? And the reason you're naked is because you say something but don't follow that up with action. I think IC can occupy that role much further upstream before it turns into an issue which we are then playing catch up with.
You don't have an option if a person is an IC not to know about business. It's like saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to play a game of cricket, but you know what? I don't know. I'm going to bowl, but I don't know how the reverse swing happens, or I'm going to bat, but I don't know how the ball performs. Come on, if you're going in the game, you need to know the game. Okay, so this cannot be. If you are not from B2B, figure out what B2B is.
Okay.
Figure out. You know what? There are only two people in the company. Only two people in the company who have the responsibility to think about the entire company.
Okay.
Who are the two people?
Maybe the CEO.
For sure.
Yep.
And second?
I guess the internal communications person.
Yes.
I guess.
Done.
I guess.
That was quite a leading question.
It was.
Right?
It was a leading. But yeah,
especially what we're
continue.
discussing
Sorry.
today. Yes.
I wouldn't have guessed that. So please
That's
tell us
fine,
why.
but well
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, so why? So CEO anyway has the responsibility to think about the finance also.
Yeah,
of course, he has
yeah.
a finance head. He or she has a HR head. He or
Yeah.
she. But HR head looks after HR. Finance looks after finance. Finance will say, you know what? This is the budget. Do in this. Okay, if you want to make a case, bring the case to me. I'll decide. He's not bothered about what people are thinking. Okay. Ops will think about ops. They have very focused responsibilities. IC has to think about everything. What the finance is saying. Oh, if they have a business, okay, this is their business sense. Okay, let me kind of match this. Okay, CEO's entire responsibility is to showcase this. Okay, HR. Okay, HR, this is a problem, but this connects to the finance. You know what? So IC and the CEO are the only two people in the organization who thinks about the entire organization, because ultimately the message is one. Message cannot be multiple.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what, guys, we ruined up or we kind of messed up because finance was not in a great shape. Yeah. You should have thought before communicating.
Correct.
Okay. Or we did not know what to do on this because HR is an issue. Yes, point is that is the vulnerability aspect come in, that are we committed to improve?
Yeah.
If you're committed to improve, we'll say, guys, sorry, we messed up. We are taking
But
these
here's a
challenges.
plan. Okay, got
these
it.
things. Okay. So is business knowledge an imperative? Yes. Nobody can escape it. If you don't want to, please don't be there. And that is where the mediocrity comes in the profession as well.
Sure. Yeah, true.
Okay, I want to be in the domain. Sometimes it feels nice and good and easy because, okay, all people talk about is newsletters. But the impact it can have is like, dude, I'm kind of really have my stake in shaping the narrative. So which means for the CEO tomorrow, I should be able to say, these are the 10 things you said. And I should be then having the guts, the grounding, the depth in me, alone me, to say, I can get up in the meeting and say, if this is what you're going to say, this is not going to land up right.
Yeah.
One of the negatives of focusing on 10,000 narratives is that you might end up becoming you versus me.
Yeah.
The company might end up creating a narrative. The company's agenda is what? To take everybody together.
Because we.
Yeah,
sure.
In a system, in a family, there's everybody. There's a child who kind of becomes a kind of a kind of maverick. There's a child who goes to the line, and there's a child who's very excellent, intelligent. But what is the responsibility of the family or the parent? To take everybody along. So I don't think so. To ensure one of the key aspects of focusing on the few messages, and that is where I also touch upon the less is more. I think we both are on the same page. Provided less is more or more is more, whatever it is authentic, is right on its track, and it's kind of continuously trying to address a certain ecosystem.
So it's not. So yeah, I mean, it's one is as internal communication as a space, and why is communication so important? One is you are motivating and inspiring people to believe. Okay, believability is important. Like I have a vision. How many people believe it? I'm very cognizant of the fact that when we announce a leadership initiative in Ideosphere, say we are going to do this next year, I'm very cognizant of the cynics in the room, or in the Teams call or whatever, right? I know, and I'm always making an effort to think about, if I were in their shoes, what would I be cynical about what I just said?
Yeah.
What is hard to believe of what I said? And whatever is hard to believe, how can I provide evidence? How can I provide proof points? How can I provide a narrative that will help them to see what I see and help them to believe what I believe? So the first thing is, as an internal communications practice, believability, inspiration, and also then giving them clarity of how we are going to get there. which means that if I do these three things very well, and a workforce, maybe we are a smaller company, a larger workforce, 10,000 people, 1 lakh people, 2 lakh, 5 lakh people are going to go together and achieve a goal, I definitely have a contribution in that. Because I was able to inspire them. I was able to give all of them clarity of how do we get there. Because a big percentage of people having a different view on how we get there, we are not getting there. Because we are going to follow different maps, right? I have to imagine, like, even when you're going on a family trip and you have 3-4 cars, the person who's like maybe the leader of the trip who's telling everybody, this is the way we are going to go.
Yeah.
Anybody who veers off is a failure for everybody. You can now finding that person. They took some other right, they took another
very
left.
well said.
So you got to take, like you said, you got to take everybody with you. But if you want to take everybody with you when you're driving your own car, you got to give them the directions first, not at the time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because just saying follow me doesn't work, because a car will come in between. Now they lost you. You got to tell them how we are going to get there, so they know that even if I'm not in front of you, you will still get to where I want you to get. And I think that's very important, and that's really the narrative.
Okay, it's like when you set the narrative in your company, everybody is still connected to each other. You see something going wrong, hey, you know what? No, this is not how we do it. But this problem gets amplified multiple times when your company is in 10 locations, 50 locations, 20 locations.
And different types, plant floor, management, whatever.
Yeah, and that is exactly where it's always important to know to keep the car on track. To keep the map in front, car on track, and kind of
keep the GPS on.
GPS on, yeah.
Don't get overconfident.
No, fantastic. Great summaries, right? If you look at why are we doing all of this, I think the answer is people make companies successful. If they're clocked in all the time, they don't check out mentally. If they're super productive, you're going to get there faster. You spoke about the map. If you look at the etymology of the word motivation, right, it comes from motivus, which is literally means moving forward, right? And that's the role IC needs to play, saying move forward.
And in which direction?
In which direction,
yeah.
Right? I think that covers, brings a full circle to where we began with saying, what is the role that IC probably needs to play as well.
Yeah. And so I think, today we've been discussing a lot of great inputs on this show. And Ambuj, thank you again for joining us. I think one of the bigger things that we've been able to kind of see is that earlier, reputation was always announced. And then it was observed by people to see how well did you match up to what you said you were going to be. But today, we live in a world where reputation is discovered and then believed. Where I am going to go and find out your reputation, your credibility, not necessarily by what you are saying, but what other people have said about you, what you've done in the past. And the best or worst part of the world that we live in today is all this data, insights, opinions, and analysis is out for everyone to see in real time, whether it's social, whether it's news, etc. And then we can bring in other characters like AI, which can also create fake news and fake analysis. And so to try and weed through all of this for a person, when you're trying to discover what is one person's or one company's or one brand's real reputation, you really have to start all the way at the core. And that core is the message. And outside the message, the first people who get that message delivered is your own team, is the internal team. And therefore, internal communications becomes an important player in how you are going to build your reputation outside. Because, again, I want to reiterate one last thing, that behind every business problem, there is always a messaging problem. Stay tuned for the next episode of Consequence of a Message.